Good morning, everyone. The first of our live reactions following day one here of Australia versus India in the World Test Championship. It was an amazing day for Australia. I'm going to break it down session by session, section by section, and obviously how all of our batsmen went and a little bit around the Indian bowlers as well. So in our preview and prediction, I spoke about the importance, obviously, heading into the Ashes from some of our batsmen, but into this test match and the ability to get some confidence from a bunch of these guys. And to start things off, I was very happy with how the Indians bowled at the start of this game. They obviously got Uzi early, which we'll speak about in a sec, but just their line and length was pretty solid for the most part. The only time they had any issues was when they strayed a little bit onto the pads, where Davey got a few runs there early on, and then Marnus as well in that early period. But yeah, for the most part, they bowled good areas, and there was a fair bit to offer in the pitch. So India actually sent Australia into bat, which is always a sign of a green top with the conditions available for them. The biggest thing here was probably the selection of a few of the Indian players. So Thakur ended up getting his chance to play. They did not play Ashwin. They did not play Axar Patel either. So they had plenty of quicks in this one. 4 quicks they played with Ravi Jadeja as well. So bowling wise, I was very happy, as I said, with how they started. Siraj and also Shami putting the ball in the right spot. They were getting a fair bit of bounce was the biggest thing there. There was a little bit of movement off the pitch, but mainly the bounce was the big thing there, which for us Australians is not the biggest issue. And I feel like, obviously, on sort of late in day two, you'd say is when India will get the chance to bat. It'll be interesting to see how the new ball for the Australians actually goes over there on a late day two pitch. So Uzi, unfortunately, falls for a duck. I absolutely love Uzi, and have to be a little bit critical of Uzi in this one. It was a very good ball, like the angle that Siraj gives to a left-handed batsman just going across him. You do see, though, when he actually plays at the ball, he's probably 45 centimeters away from the stumps at least there, which just meant that you could just see he's just out there fishing a little bit, and the technique, the footwork just wasn't there at all. It was just, as I said, just a fish outside the off stump, just flayed the bat out there, and he just did not need to play at it. And it's one of those times where if you, as I said, being critical, you're comparing him to someone like Marnus and the way that he plays. He did get out by, actually having his bat a little bit away from his pads, but for the most part, Marnus, Smithy play the ball super late. Marnus is probably the best at it, I would say, in just keeping, within himself, not playing outside his stumps unless he needs to score. The big thing with Uzi there, he was just, poking the bat out there. No ability to score runs off that unless he edges it through the slips, which is obviously not what we're wanting. So just an unfortunate one. Obviously, 10 balls in, you have seen enough at that point to be able to try and get away from that. As I said, it was a good one. It does start on the stumps, and that's the thing with that angle. It starts on the stumps and it's going away further. But knowing the way that the Indians bowl, they're not really big swingers of the ball. You see Siraj there didn't move it a lot in the air, and same with Shami. There was really only Shuttle Thakur there that actually swings the ball a little bit away from a right hander or back into a lefty. So knowing that he had faced a bunch of balls from Siraj and Shami that they weren't swinging the ball, it's one of those things you just have to let go and get out of the way. So unfortunate for Uzi, but I think he'll be back. The big news is here, every other batsman's got some time at the crease and at least scored some runs. So confidence in this game, obviously getting us into Australia into a cracking spot there at 3 for 327 off 85 overs. The run rate was great. You see there Marnus and Smithy a little bit lower at 41.9, 41.8, but still that's solid. It's more than one in every 3 balls, which is exactly what you're looking for here in the test match, especially when you can bat around other guys that score at a really, really good strike rate. We have to give Davey Warner his props here. He batted really well, and there was a period there at the start. Obviously, he waited for the right balls. He played very straight for the most part. There was a couple of drives. He had an on drive and a straight drive early on, which was very, very helpful. Anytime they gave him width, he went hard at it. And there was a few cut shots there. He had a couple that went over sort of gully, wide of gully there, backward point, which ended up at 4s. And then he had a few back foot punches that really, really helped him. Umesh Yadav, he had a really, really tough start. And that allowed Australians to get on the front foot there. Warner had an over there of 16 against Yadav, which really hurt. And he just gave width with no movement off the pitch or in the air, which just allowed Warner to really get into his own. So I was very happy with how Davey played, and I hope that gives him the confidence for obviously innings 2, but then for the Ashes series as well. And we do need him to come out and do well. What I've found is the biggest difference, obviously a day where the Aussies dominated after India chose to send them into bat, just showed that their bowling isn't up to scratch at the moment. I definitely think it can improve, and that's in day two. They'll have a fair bit to work on, but just their ability to move the ball in the air, and obviously off the wicket, but in the air especially, us Australians have a lot of trouble playing against that. And I think the bowling of England is better at the moment. So I think, as I said, getting some confidence in this is going to be needed to be able to face the English in the Ashes. So that was Warner there. Very happy with that. And then he got out by hitting, just had a pull shot down leg, which he got some glove on. So very frustrating. It could have been a big one for Warner. Very happy with how he was playing. The strike rate was awesome. So that's that there. Marnus, 26 off 62. He had a very, very good ball, the one that Shami got in, but he did leave a gap between bat and pad. It was very full. He was walking, sort of coming down the wicket at it, did move his back foot into that ball as well, but just was a little bit lazy with his technique on that one compared to how he was playing for the rest of his innings. I think he was very, very good and exactly what we expect from Marnus these days. So impressive that he's been around the team for, 4 years now? And he continues to go from strength to strength. He was clearly one of the best batters in the world. Not just his average, the way he looks, the way he plays, it's very, very solid. So great work from Marnus. Unfortunately, lost his wicket just after Davey Warner did. So it could have ended up in a bad position. Warner got out. They had a nice partnership, Warner and Labuschagne there. And then Marnus got out straight after that. So if you actually look at the fall of wickets there, it was 2 for 71 and then 3 for 76. So just 5 runs later, really just brought Smithy and Travi in at a tough position. 3 for 76 in the 25th over there is a time that you're not wanting to come out and bat. As a new partnership, having to restart there. So losing 2 wickets there in a clump, not ideal. And I think Marnus was just a little bit loose with that shot, and he'll be annoyed with himself and he'll want to improve on that. But again, happy with that first partnership. We needed it after the early wicket with Uzi going down at one wicket down for 2. Okay, now the masterclass happened and Smithy and Head. So before we get into that, let's just have a look at the bowling. So spoke about Shami and Siraj. They're starting pretty well. As I said, I was very happy with how they were going there. The ball stopped moving after a while and it just became a little bit more difficult for them. Obviously with a massive partnership that Smithy and Head ended up having there, and the way that Head stroked the ball, obviously almost at 100 strike rate there. He did slow down a little bit. At one point, he was way over a run of ball, and then he had about half an hour where he just struggled to get it past the fielders. He still batted well, just didn't hit the gaps as much as he did in the rest of the innings. But so that there helped some of the economies here, but they were all very, very high. So no real standout bowler for them. One person I was very happy with was Thakur there. He had terrific swing. For the most part, he bowled really well. He had a couple of balls there where he just kind of got it wrong. But for the most part, I think he was close to one of their better bowlers. And I think that he deserves his position in this squad. Even though he did get hit for over 4 and over. As I said, for the most part, he looked most likely. He had a couple of shouts on Marnus there. For LBW, one was hitting the top of the stumps, which was umpire's call and not out. And then one was just missing. But he gave the most trouble, I feel, of the bowlers at this point. Jadeja just showing that what he can provide against Australia, not in India, is not as good. Obviously, at 14 overs for none for 48. Wasn't his day, but he was also, he only bowled, he came on a fair bit later, only bowled to the 2 guys above in Head and Smith. Okay, let's talk about the masterclass of Smithy and Head then. So let's start with Trav in this one. A massive congratulations to him here. Obviously, his spot in this side, 100% is cemented now. I think it was cemented before this. There's no number 5 playing better. He did get dropped at the start of the India series to then come back and play really well, to then come here in England and absolutely dominate. Again, against a slightly lesser bowling lineup, I think, than that of England. This was such an important innings for him. He came out and he dominated from word go. He was way over a run a ball for his first 30 to 40 runs there. And just really stamped his authority on the game. What you saw when Warner had that couple of big overs there is the heads dropped. Sharma's in there a little bit annoyed. He was kind of just, because Warner had a bunch of shots through point, backward point, forward a point. He did throw a deep point there, and then Warner just had that one. He just tapped it on the head there, through backward point for 4. You saw the heads drop and everything kind of change. That's exactly what happens when Travis Head comes to the crease. And this is why these type of batsmen in the middle order are so important. And why England are doing so well at the moment. the Bazball style allows them to get on top of the opposition teams very, very quickly. And it is very hard as a bowling team, as a captain, as a fielding team there to get yourselves up and get back in the contest, because if someone's scoring at will, it just makes it very, very difficult. So Trav, Smithy, the shot play was absolutely incredible. Travis Head, with some of his shots where he just dabbing it straight over the slip's head, were absolutely incredible. He had about 5 or 6 of them. One of them went for 6, the others for 4, and they just didn't get it right to him. You hear Ricky Ponting in commentary just talking about the use of the short ball, which they just didn't have enough. They had 1 or 2 that worked really well. He kind of he went to a player shot and ended up having to evade and didn't look super comfortable. But for the most part, they gave him width outside off. And we know for Travis, it's exactly what he wants. In a pitch that's bouncing well enough for him, the odd one was staying a little bit low, but most of the time it was bouncing up nicely for his cuts. There's one of them there, a back foot punch that just, I don't know how he did it. It went for 4, and it almost looked like a block, like a back foot defensive block, and he ended up whacking it for 4 there. But yeah, Travis had shots across around the ground all day. His driving was impeccable. Some on drives there. A lot of drives through mid wicket. You noticed for Travis and also Steve there. And we'll get to Steve with that now, because he's an absolute maestro through square leg and mid wicket. And I think they bowled too straight to him across this game. They gave him too many opportunities to play through that. So think about it like this. In a game where there's a bit more movement, there's a bit more seam, there's movement in the air, seam off the wicket. That's when you can get Smithy maybe missing 1 or 2 on those straight ones and get him an LBW or bowl, something like that. But we know how good he is there, and if it's not doing much like that, as soon as you bowl straight to him, that's his bread and butter. So you didn't see him play too many through the offside. There were a few nice cover drives there, but for the most part, he was able to have his way on the leg side, which is exactly what you don't want to be doing. You want to be bowling that sort of 4th stump, 5th stump to Smithy and get him nicking, especially in England, and I just don't think they did that enough. Smithy was able to leave well, and he was able to capitalise on those type of shots when they came up. There's one there of Ravi Jadeja there where he came down the wicket. He kind of premeditated it and came down the wicket. So obviously he didn't score super quick, 95 off 227, but he did not need to at all. What Travis Head allows guys like Smithy and Marnus to do is just bat and just be there and do their thing and score when they need to. Smithy pretty much scored as quick as Travis Head in the second part of their innings. At one point, Travi was in the 90s and Smithy was 41. He got a nice 4 down the ground, and then he scored 50. They pretty much scored 50 each for that second part. And this is just a textbook. Obviously, with Travi being the scorer that he is, that shows it. But it's just a textbook day of Test match cricket where you start that a little bit slower. The second period there was similar, just because they lost a couple of wickets and it was like slowly building in, and then Travi come in and did his thing. Obviously he was part of that second session there, and the last one the both of them actually absolutely dominated, and that's exactly what you want from a full day of cricket. 85 overs there. Obviously just the one spinner made that a little bit slower, and they'll hopefully catch up a few of those overs in day 2 there, but just a terrific display of batting from those two. There's not much else to say apart from Travi getting lots of confidence, Smithy just doing his thing. Marnus was really solid and would have been very happy to get to play well for the most part, but he'll be disappointed with that. He'll be wanting to come out and play much better and get a big score next in the next innings, which will be good. And then Davey Warner, lots of confidence there. Uzi will know what he did wrong, and he knows that that's just something that he can fix, especially in the second innings when they know that the ball isn't going to be moving too much. Obviously, Thakur is going to be one that's going to bring that ball back in, so knowing that, he won't have to face him as an opener. Hopefully he does after a bit of time, but yeah, for Uzi there, he knows what he has to fix, and he'll be better for that. I do expect the Indians to come out and have a little bit of a different plan. What Travis had said in his post innings press conference there, a little bit of a chat that he had, a couple of minutes there, that he was just saying that and I think it's very, very true. The Steve Smith and Marnus are the guys that you're going to focus on, and Davey Warner I think would be number 3, and obviously Uzi's been a lot of form as well. They're going to focus a little bit less on guys like Travis Head being your number 5, sort of your 4th or 5th best batsman there in the squad, and I don't think that they game plan for him enough. He played amazing cricket. Obviously, he was perfect in this one. He played the ball really late. A lot of times you see if Travis is he gets a little bit anxious, he looks a little bit antsy, and just tries to push at the ball a little bit. He tries to force a couple of those cut shots and back foot punches that is his trademark. And in this game here, he just waited perfectly onto the ball. Awesome. So I think he would have scored well anyway, but I don't think they had a good game plan for Travi. I think using the short ball a little bit more would be something that I would suggest for them to do. But yeah, you can't just give him width, and then he did get a bunch of half volleys on the on his legs as well, middle and leg stump, which he's going to dispatch of when he's in form and he's playing the ball late. That's going to be perfect for him. But yeah, way too much width. They tried to bowl some short balls, but they were sitting here. He could just lean back a little bit, tap it over the top, which made that very simple for him. They game planned obviously a lot more to Smithy, but I don't think they performed their game plan to anywhere near to perfection. So an amazing day for Australia. I think India will come out with a slightly different tact. I think they should be bowling a little bit more outside off to Smithy. I'm waiting for him to make a mistake there because that is the best way. And then obviously, if you have a little bit of a plan to bowl a bunch there, and then you could fire in a Yorker, you could set a different field to him as well. What they stuffed up with early is we know that they actually had it in there for Marnus, but they should have had it in there for Smithy, that leg gully, that leg slip. He had a bunch there. He obviously walks across the pitch there and plays to that leg side. And what happens when you do walk across, guys, is that you expose that you're going to hit it that little bit finer. If you're staying still, head right over the ball like so, you're going to hit it a little bit straighter. Whereas he walks across it, he's not falling over with his head, but he's walking across it and gives that angle as the ball comes into him and across his pads there to be able to flick it that little bit finer. And he has been, England have got him out a bunch of times. Obviously, New Zealand did as well with Wagner, with the shorter ball, but also the fuller one, where he just pops it, he walks across and hits it to the short guy behind. So some strategies like that, I think, it was something that they missed out on a fair bit. And then Travi just not giving him that width and bowling a nice channel to him on a good length is when he's going to get a little bit frustrated. He obviously just scored at will. So if you can frustrate him for a little bit longer than sort of half an hour or so, 5 or 6 good overs at him, at his body, not the leg side obviously, but just in that channel where he can't get that width is when he's going to do something silly. But it's going to be very, very hard to get Smithy and Travis out. Really massive innings for Trav there at 146. The hardest part for a lot of these guys is they get to 100 and they get out. You see Smithy and Marnus make big hundreds, but the majority of guys will get to that 100 and then they'll get too aggressive and get out. Where Smithy head was absolutely perfect with that. Gets to 146, and I really hope that he can get to obviously past 150 and get into a big 100 there, 170, 180, 200. There's every chance that he can do it, and this is the type of guy that could come out and score a run of ball in that first session and be 200 before the end of that first session tomorrow. My thoughts on where they'll end up. I think that if Smithy and Head can be there for the first hour, I think they clearly get over 500 and they will declare at about that 540, 550 mark. If they can score really fast and they can be bowling at the back end of that middle session, I think would be the way that they want to. But at worst, at least an hour or so in the afternoon, evening to get at the Indian batters. And it's going to be very interesting to see how the Indian bowlers come out. And then we'll go from there. But I hope you enjoyed that, guys. It was a really great day for Australia, and I can't wait to react to tomorrow's day 2. If you aren't watching, guys, check it out on 7 or 7 Plus is where you need to watch that of an evening. Enjoy, guys.